All right, good morning and welcome to the webinar. I'm Keyonda Smith, your instructional designer here at Trident University, and you are part of our first presentation for the Curriculum Innovation webinar series, where we will discuss the components of high-quality course introductions and overviews. Keep in mind also, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, you can use the raise hand option in the GoToWebinar panel, and I'll be sure to provide you an opportunity to ask your question. So a little background, today's presentation is on course overviews and introductions. This is important for developers to incorporate, as the overview and introduction sections are expected to provide a clear roadmap or guide, like information to save the students their time and avoid any frustrations. It also connects the student with the instructor and provides the student a sense of the big picture. According to Quality Matters, the course overview and introduction section sets the tone for the course. It lets learners know what to expect and provides guidance to ensure learners get off to a good start. Therefore, today I will share with you basic versus exemplary course introductions and overviews, as well as provide you with a few examples you may want to include when developing an exemplary course introduction overview section for your online course. So for the next few slides, we will discuss a few basic and exemplary examples of how to achieve this goal. And there will be 2 poll questions and a summary. This presentation will take approximately 20 minutes of your time, with additional time allotted at the end for any questions or comments. So if you're ready, we'll go ahead and get started. So here's an example of a basic course design practice. The instructor starts the course with a welcome and review, and you can use the syllabus to provide students a thorough outline of work that they will be doing and include a welcome message to help students connect with you as a human being. However, in addition to the basics, an exemplary practice is that of you actively welcoming students and making yourself available to them as the course launches. You can achieve this by use of an introduction discussion board that is monitored by you to help the students feel welcome. In a basic practice, you will provide students with clear information regarding how technology will be used in the course. This is especially important for hybrid courses. In an exemplary practice, you would include students being tasked to complete a syllabus quiz to have a better understanding of course policies and of course structure. This is achieved by the first quiz in a course, having multiple attempts, and that encourages students to return to the syllabus multiple times, using it as a reference. A basic practice includes you providing a clear starting point, meant to save time and student frustrations. However, in exemplary practice, you're providing information on how to navigate through the course material to reduce the number of questions sent to you later. This can be achieved just by including a scavenger hunt or a syllabus quiz, guiding exploration. A table or diagram depicting relationships is also an acceptable method. So here's our first poll. Do you feel the exemplary examples I've presented so far are realistic and can be implemented during the course development phase? All right, so we got 75% said yes, it's realistic, 25% said no. So for the most part, it looks like we're pretty erring to the side of yes, these are realistic. We're not asking anything that's outlandish. So next, as a basic practice, your students should be able to easily locate the syllabus, the course calendar, and any other documents that they use regularly. However, if you want to be exemplary, you would include a course map, as this reaches all types of learners by providing a visualization of the course layout. The course map might include active links guiding students to prospective areas of the course. A basic practice involves you providing a complete syllabus with clear answers to questions about course policies and procedures. Clear information in the syllabus and accompanying documents can reduce questions that will be sent to you from students at a later time within the course. However, if you want to be exemplary, we're aware that links to each policy are acceptable, most often because student handbooks are updated so frequently. Posing an increased risk of broken links is increased by that. So an exemplary practice is where you could also incorporate a short description of the policy on the policy page to ensure learners will receive the information without total reliance on a hyperlink. A basic practice is where you clearly state expectations for how students should participate in course activities. You also state how students should receive credit for participation and whether or not makeup opportunities are available. An exemplary practice is where you display non-exemplary and exemplary models or examples of a particular assignment that were acceptable and unacceptable. You would also utilize checklists, rubrics, or other instruments for identifying the various levels of student mastery. In a basic practice, you provide a comprehensive listing of course deadlines to help students see the big picture, allowing them to plan weekly work. However, an exemplary practice is where, when possible, you are able to grade student work quickly. In large classes, you can use things like self-tests that include detailed feedback to provide a quick turnaround. You can offer video office hours or virtual office hours to provide students with the opportunity to connect with you on a more individual level. All right, this brings us to our next poll. A course introduction that clearly outlines synchronous and asynchronous requirements for participating in the course is an exemplary course design practice. Yes or no? Or true or false?
And Dr. Smith, someone in the audience has their hand up right now.
Okay.
Dr. Fitzgerald has something to say. Do you remember how to unmute the phone?
Let me see.
Just click on the phone icon on the left. And then an option to unmute will pop up.
All right, that's actually muting me. Hold on.
Okay, well, I'm going to, Dr. Fitzgerald, I'm going to unmute you right now so you can share.
Questions. Okay, great. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hi, Keyonda, this is Steve Fitzgerald. So I just had a couple of questions as you were going along, and this is why, like, on the first poll, I answered no, and it wasn't because no, it wasn't simple. It was just because of the questions that I had about what your recommendations in terms of the applicability of some of those best practices. So, for example, I was wondering, would you recommend start here and, some of the things that you're recommending about, technology and so on at every program level and or at every level of course within a program? So, you know, would you recommend it in a capstone course for students that have already been through a lot of courses at Trident? You know, the nature of our program, you know, as you know, I mean, I think we have an enterprise approach where there's a pretty broad level of standardization across, you know, where elements are and things like that in a course, and that's now included in the orientation course for new students. So I'm just within that context, I'm just wondering what you would see as being best practice given those background conditions.
Yeah, I believe that a start here or a map to that particular course is important for every course, even if it's an introductory level course or an advanced level course. A guide map is always useful because all the courses are so different. To guide learners through the different components of your course is helpful because it doesn't necessarily say that they've taken a course that looks like yours before, because I've looked through several of our courses and they are very much so different. So a guide map or somewhere to tell students where they're to start is extremely helpful. And I've seen that in some of our courses where professors have put start here or read this first, and that's a really good introduction to students to let them know. And I've seen it in more advanced introductory levels courses on the undergraduate level, and you know they still had to tell learners where to start because their course was so different than some of the courses they may have taken before.
That's helpful. Thank you. I think it would be great. You may have it later in your presentation, but if not, it would be great to see some of the examples of where faculty have been doing that in different kinds of courses at Trident, just to kind of get some visuals on examples.
Well, I could tell you real quickly, an example would be instead of the first module saying course 1 case or if it says module 1 case, it would say module 1 case, and then the next under that the next bullet would say read this first. Or after their cafe where they introduce themselves, there will be a bullet there that'll say read this before you start, and it'll kind of provide. Yeah, it's just an additional component to the course, additional page that we add that can be added into D2L, where it just says start here, and it kind of guides learners to where they need to go and how they can best achieve the learning outcomes.
So that's actually cool because having a separate page that says start here is different from having it on a page that says background or home page or something. It kind of really gives a visual indicator right in the course structure.
Exactly, in case learners get lost along the way or they just want to see what's ahead for them, what's down the road.
Okay, great. I have one other question and then I'll let you get back. I'm sorry to jump in. A lot of things are coming up as you were going along. I hope you don't mind.
No.
The other was in terms of what you were saying about copying parts of the policy into, you know, for example, the syllabus or the course overview. One of the reasons that we went away from that was because the challenge of maintaining all and remembering all those places where changes need to be made when a policy is updated. With the LOR, maybe that's changed, and maybe we could revisit that. But that was one of the reasons that we went away from that, because we used to have pieces of policies copied into lots of different places, and then we'd forget, and then we'd have incongruence in policy across places. So one of the reasons that we went to just a link to the catalogs was to avoid that potential incongruence.
Yes, absolutely, and hopefully the learning object repository can remedy that issue. Therefore, when something changes, it can change across all courses that contain that learning object, and that is where we're working on now. I think Lori Peck and the library is actually working on an LOR project, so that when you do make a change in your course, we can just do a quick search and find the metadata that's linked to it and update all the courses that contain that LOR or that learning object. So we're working on that now, and you know, right now we're doing the best that we can with just the link that guides them to the student handbook, but that's not an ideal way of relaying policy to learners.
I agree.
All right, is
Thank
that
you
all?
very much.
No problem, Stephen, no problem. All right, so moving back to the poll, it looks like 84% believe that this is true, a course introduction that clearly outlines synchronous and asynchronous requirements for participation in the course is exemplary. Actually, that's a basic course design principle. All courses should clearly outline synchronous and asynchronous requirements for participation. That's not really going above and beyond as far as exemplary course design. A course introduction that provides a detailed roadmap or a detailed guide about what that looks like would be definitely exemplary. But any course that's out there should always clearly outline all synchronous and asynchronous requirements for participation. That is a basic course component. All right. In basic practice, you encourage interaction between students and with yourself to eliminate isolation in an online course. Now, an exemplary practice of that is where you provide a model of an exemplary and non-exemplary introduction, as this will help students get to know you with a welcome message. Students who connect with their instructors are more likely to log in and do the work. You definitely want to encourage your students to interact with you because that's one of the 3 interaction types we should have in all courses. There should be learner-learner interaction, learner-student interaction, and learner-content interaction. So they should be interacting with you, they should be interacting with each other, and they also should be interacting with the content. All 3 of those should happen in each and every course in order for it to be exemplary. Now, a basic practice is your understanding that some students are completely new to online learning. Therefore, etiquette is required to meet basic standards. However, exemplary practice is where you provide resources and examples to educate them on the characteristics of a successful online student. Instead of just placing your etiquette rules, you also show them some acceptable and unacceptable responses in their discussion threads or activities that are similar to that. So
Dr. Smith, I'm going to jump in. I just was emailing with Dr. Tanasescu, who would like to share a few words, and then followed by Dr. Mahatni. Actually, it looks like Dr. Tanasescu hasn't or doesn't have voice option. So if you can access the audio, then I can let you speak and share your thoughts with Dr. Smith. So
yeah, and that would be awesome.
And then Dr. Mahatni, I'm gonna, despite the email I just sent, I'm gonna flip the 2 of you. So I'm unmuting you now, and you should be able to speak.
This is Lisa. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't know if Dr. Tanescu was going to speak first. Maybe I'm the only one that has the audio, or them. Okay, well, I can just go ahead here. I didn't mean to interrupt, but just we wanted to speak a little bit about this series, and so I'll just keep this short, and that, just to remind everyone that, curriculum innovation is part of our strategic theme, and as part of our, we're working with the course development and instruction with our curriculum innovation group, and part of that function is to assess faculty curriculum development needs and launch these faculty presentations that are focused on our curriculum. And so we would like to continue this, and Keyonda is giving us a great first webinar in this series of best practices. So we would like, and the audience members that are listening, I can't actually see the list of who's attending, but we hope to highlight various teaching practice successes at Trident.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Mahatni, for that additional background information. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Tanasescu is ready to speak now. So I'm going to unmuting her from right now. Okay, should be ready.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Just to add to what Lisa was saying, and we were planning to do this introduction at the beginning, but you started right on time, so we didn't get a chance to do that. Just to put in perspective what we're doing with these webinars, they are a very important part of our strategic plan, and particularly as it pertains to curriculum innovation and curriculum improvement. So one of the main pieces of the main action items in the strategic plan for the curriculum innovation group is this series of webinars. In addition to this, we're also looking at further supporting faculty in the scholarship of teaching and doing research within our courses and looking at best practices. And I'm working, and Lisa's working with Dr. Pollard to have a plan in place for that and to initiate a process in which we look at the kinds of things that faculty would like to research in their courses when it comes to curriculum, when it comes to teaching, for the purpose of innovation, and how we're going to support that analytically and beyond. And also looking for other opportunities for professional development. So it's not sort of an independent endeavor. It's part of this bigger plan, and it fully aligns with our strategic plan. And one of the things that Lisa will be doing in her new tenure as the AVP and being in charge of this area as well is to even further enhance alignment with the faculty needs in the arena of curriculum design. Thank you. I will let Keyonda continue to speak, and it's a pleasure to have this started. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tanasescu. Thank you. All right, so the basic course consists of using default names for tools that are a part of the LMS. That's basic course design. We want to use a consistent name. If you call it discussion board, and then you turn around and call it discussion thread, that may be confusing to some learners because technically those are two different things. But we have seen where faculty are using those terms interchangeably, and they're not interchangeable. They're two different components of the LMS. So just using consistent language throughout the course, the default names for the tools in the LMS, it gives the students a frame of reference from course to course, and it raises their comfort level. An exemplary practice includes you seeking student feedback about their experiences with the course site and time to make adjustments. That means a formative feedback. And some of the feedbacks are given at the end of the course through the reflective essays, or through the course. There's course evaluations that go out, but those are summative. A formative assessment where you're able to get feedback maybe a quarter of a way through or halfway through, so that if you need to make adjustments, you can. That's an exemplary practice. You can ask students to complete a survey to get a better understanding of their experiences with the course. You can even assign points or bonus points to the survey that will kind of ensure that they complete it. All right, so I'll go ahead and sum it up in a conclusion. So this concludes pretty much a few pointers that I had on just course introduction and overviews, which is one component of your course design. I know there are several other components, but this one is just only on course overview and introductions. So number one, you want to provide students with a method for contacting you to reduce student anxiety and increase instructor presence. Number two, you want to use the syllabus as a guide to provide students a thorough outline of work that they'll be doing throughout the course. You can include a welcome message to help students connect with you as a human being as well. Number 3, a clear starting point saves time and frustration. Provide information on how to navigate through the course materials to reduce the number of questions that they're going to ask you at a later time. Number 4, important items should be easily accessible, such as the course calendar and any other documents that they regularly use. Number 5, a complete syllabus provides clear answers to questions about course policies and procedures. Clear information in the syllabus and accompanying documents can reduce questions that they're going to have later. Number 6, you want to provide a comprehensive listing of course deadlines to help students kind of see the big picture and allow them to plan their work ahead or plan for the week. And number 7, you want to clearly state expectations for how students should participate in course activities. Additionally, let them know how they are expected to behave in an online course. Determine how students will receive credit for participation and whether or not makeup opportunities are available. They are better able to manage their course participation if they know when faculty will provide grades and feedback for assignments and assessments. Provide this information to students early in the course to reduce any type of unrealistic expectations. Number 8, instructions that outline how to access tools used for the course can help reduce the number of questions they may have at a later time. So if the tools are located outside of the LMS, provide a link to the tool along with maybe a tutorial or some instructions explaining how it's used. And lastly, number 9, encourage interaction between students and with yourself to eliminate isolation in an online course, and it also builds a sense of community. And that's also part of our 3 rules of engagement: learner, faculty, and learner content. So thank you for attending, and I'm open if you guys have any additional questions, comments, or feedback.
I can open up the phones if anyone wants to speak. Dr. Reinders, saw your question, and that's I'm actually not sure if that can be set up in GoToWebinar, just because most of the webinars are designed for like an outside audience, and which in those situations generally want to hide the attendee list from those. But I will look into it because I could be wrong. But I do understand your point about the building community and enabling that follow-up. But perhaps Dr. Smith can send out a list of the attendees as well, if you think that might help.
All right, Dr. Lewis has a question. Okay, Dr. Lewis, you can go ahead and speak.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm between my phone being muted and your system being muted. Sometimes it gets confusing. I was in, one of the points that really resonated with me was when you were talking about having a consistent terminology, and I know that I have been guilty of this myself. Sometimes calling it the discussion section, sometimes calling it the forum. Sometimes calling them threads, like just exactly what you were describing. And I'm wondering if we could somehow, for some of the terminology that may be most critical, to have a common terminology on, if, maybe something that you could work on is developing a standard terminology that we could all then receive and make sure that when we talk to our students, either, by email or on the, or in courses, that we all use the same thing. Because I'm not really sure, you said these things mean different things, and and can confuse the students, and I'm sensitive to that. But I don't know the difference between a discussion area and a discussion forum, or the threaded discussion and a discussion forum. So maybe that would be one thing that you could possibly get together and distribute to the faculty so that we were all on the same page with that.
That's a Great idea, Dr. Lewis. And I actually believe that D2L has a list of terminology for, and I believe that it's appropriate to use the native terminology for that particular LMS, because some of us can use, we're used to using Blackboard, we're used to using Canvas, then we're used to using D2L and all the Sakai, and they all call things different. But I believe it would be more helpful if we utilize the terminology that's native to that LMS. And I believe D2L does have that list. So I will pull that up and I'll send it out to you guys.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right, are there any more questions? Okay, I see Mary Lind. All right.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. I've enjoyed it, and it's always good to hear this because I'm really totally immersed in course development. You know, some of the ideas you mentioned, like, you know, start here, do this first, give extra credit. You know, I like those ideas, but I really do feel constricted with the current course layout, and that I'm sort of in a straitjacket in terms of, you know, trying to standardize it, which of course is important, but yet to be able to build some of this sort of motivational stuff in the course to keep the students engaged. Do you have any feelings about that in terms of course development within a structured course framework where you have very little control over content? You can't even change the content. It's put in by someone else. The gradebook's controlled. You have to, you know, adhere to that framework.
Yes, and if you are a developer versus a faculty member, there are different access or levels of access you're going to have. Therefore, we are currently in a process of hitting this from the front. So the course development process is going to include these components. That way, the course developers will know, they'll be prompted to include these areas of importance. So regardless whether a faculty member can make updates or not, if they know during the development process that this is a necessity for their course, it'll be there for them, whether the instructor or the faculty member knows that they were supposed to do it or not. Because what's happening is in the course development process, they're not being prompted to include some of these components. So they don't know that it should be there, and they develop the course and it's not there, then it goes off to the faculty member, and the faculty member, it can't make any changes or any additions. So we are going to address this from the front end and make sure that we can get the course development process to include these components.
Okay, so it'll be more collaborative rather than, you know, put what I have in a piece of paper and file structure and send over to the people who enter the course in the system.
It will still be that, from what I understand currently, it will still be that process, but that file will have prompts. And we'll also have a course development guide. So as you're clicking on your prompts or you're including your information, if you click on the header, then it'll take you to what this looks like. It'll give you examples, non-examples, acceptable and unacceptable ways to enter that information. So it'll provide you more guidance, and it'll also prompt the developer to include some of these areas that I talked about today, because currently that's not in place. So it'll still be that document, but it's just going to operate a little different, and you'll have more resources to guide you to enter in the correct and acceptable basic standard course development pieces.
Yeah, it sounds like you're working on that form, because that form now is a Word document and it's so linear. And so, you know, I'm trying to adhere to this linear, but yet when you get into the actual course, it's, you know, it's a clickable web page, so it's not that linear. So, you know, as I'm developing these courses, I'm having to create, I don't know, it seems like, you know, when I make a change in one part, like in a module 4, I have to scroll back to module 1 and do this, you know, to make sure it's in alignment. But there's just a lot of back and forth through the modules to try and ensure this alignment. And then I still worry when I submit it that maybe I forgot to put something in alignment across those modules. But you see, it's just a very linear Word document. It makes it kind of hard to see the whole picture there of what I'm putting together. But maybe what you're saying will achieve that.
Yes, I totally understand that course design is not linear. It's very agile and it's iterative. So this document will help. We're updating it to the point where it will help give more guidance, so that you won't have to do the back and forth. If you are able to follow the correct course development processes that are based on quality matters, you shouldn't have to go backwards and do any back work, because it's going to follow that same flow. But it is agile and iterative, so it's not a very linear process. That's why the new Word document that you're going to be using is going to have links within the document that's going to link you to other sections of the document to help guide you to developing, and you're not doing all the scrolling and getting lost and can't see what it looks like.
But that new document's not out yet, right? I'm right in the middle of course development, a bunch of courses, so I'm still in the old framework, right?
You have to send it through the whole process. So it has to be approved by several other people, including faculty and the deans, and has to be approved by the ALT, the leadership team.
Okay, okay. I just want to make sure I hadn't missed something.
No.
Because I'm using the old form. All right.
Now give us a little bit of time, but definitely we're hoping sooner than later.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Dr. Smith, Dr. Tanasescu wants to speak again.
Okay, sure. She's not on my list, Annie.
Oh, now I'm on.
Okay, there you go.
Oh, yeah, now I see it. So, great comments. I liked how you referred to the elements of the learning community and the pieces that you mentioned, learner to learner and learner to the faculty member, the instructor, and then learner to content. Those are the components that are essential when we're talking about a learning community. And given one of the questions that was asked here by Mary earlier, I think that the learning community needs to perhaps evolve and be across the board and be faculty to faculty as well. Maybe our model needs to evolve in terms of the way courses are developed in terms of process as well. So you have several developers as a practice on specific courses, so then you have more of a collaboration right off the bat and the kind of input that you need from all the faculty that should give input on a specific course. And then to the question on how do you strike this balance between structure and innovation, if you will, between the material that's already going to be developed in the distributed environment, and there's a reason for that, right? And it makes things easier, it makes assessment easier. Between that and innovation, how do we strike that balance? I think including the best practices as much as possible in the standard part of the course to begin with is also very important. So the work that's happening on the course guidelines document is very exciting, and we look forward to taking this document through levels of governance and further improve the process going forward.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for your comment. All right, Dr. Fitzgerald has a comment. Okay.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
This is very exciting. What a great presentation, great set of and great dialogue around all of this. A couple of points around things that you were making points that you were making in the last part of the presentation. So first of all, I agree with Deb Lewis' great point about consistent naming of course components. One of the pieces around that to be aware of, and I think it's still this way, is that in the grade book in all the courses, the template shows TD at the top of the column for discussion. And TD is not the D2L naming vernacular, but it was how we called discussions in CourseNet. And we talked about changing it at the time, but for various reasons didn't do it. And then also, we had students at the time, and the majority of our students and faculty were transitioning from CourseNet, and so it was natural for them to refer to it as the threaded discussion. And that has continued in practice to some extent, but it's also, we just have to look at places where it is structured in, these consistencies or inconsistencies have been structured into the system in terms of naming, in terms of our adaptation of D2L. So that's just related to that conversation. I think it would be great to do that. I love this last slide about overview and introduction section, and it raised a few ideas and questions for me. So first of all, when I look at this, we have a bunch of pieces of overview and introduction, but they're different pieces in different places. And so I wonder how we might, and you and others may be thinking of this already, how we might create a single location for overview and introduction. Like, for example, we have links to instructions on how to access tools and a help for students widget, but that's disconnected from the syllabus, and it's disconnected from the introduce yourself discussion. So we have different pieces of things in different places, and I'm wondering, I think it would be a wonderful vision to kind of create a single location about overview and introduction if that were possible. I don't know if that's what you have in mind, but it seems like it here when it says section. I'm envisioning that kind of as one place. And then a question I have for you regarding that in addition is the syllabus. We talk about it as like a single entity. In the way that we've constructed it, it's broken into multiple pages. And then we had a project last year of taking those pages and putting them into PDF, single files, because there are times when that's needed for various purposes. And I'm just curious as to, what your perspective is or what you think best practice is in terms of whether the syllabus should be a single document or should be broken into multiple pages as it is now, web pages. How do you envision all of that? And what do you see as being best practice?
Well, I'm a huge fan of universal design for learning, so I'm always going to say you offer the same information in multiple ways, right? Because we don't want to miss any learners. So I am a fan of the syllabus being offered both in the individual web pages as well as being available for learners as a single document. The individual pages, we can, these components underneath the syllabus hierarchical structure that's currently in D2L, underneath the syllabus section, these components should be found somewhere in that section. And it may have different labels or maybe called something different, but underneath the syllabus, these sections should be, this information should be included. If we offer it as a single document on the syllabus, then it should definitely say course overview and introduction, and these components should be included in that as well. It should kind of mirror what's in the LMS.
That's great, thank you. And when you say overview and introduction section, are you recommending that these different components about important items and complete syllabus and expectations and links to instructions and how to access tools and the different things that you've been talking about, are you recommending that those be in one place? When you say section, like what do you think of as a section?
Yes, like currently, I'm going off memory right now, but if I can recall, you have under your syllabus sections, you do have a course introduction, or you have a introduction bullet, and then you also have an overview bullet, I believe, underneath the syllabus. This information should be there at some capacity. It should be in either one of those at some capacity, whether you're just giving an overview or if you're introducing learners to the course. And then I believe there's a cyber cafe that falls under that same hierarchy, and that's where you're able to encourage learners for their interaction, and that provides the opportunity for learner interaction. Policies should be under overview and introduction. Course-specific technology should be under introduction. I'm not saying technology as far as they need to have a computer and internet, the big technology questions like for IT. I mean, course-specific technology. If you're using an LTI or an OER, if they need a headset, if they need a webcam, if they need a cell phone camera, if they need a recorder, that should be listed in the overview and introduction. We don't want to wait until we get to that module and then tell students, oh yeah, you'll need a webcam, and they're already in module 3. That's not a good time to prepare them. All of these things should be told up front and in the beginning, which is the only way we can hit them in the beginning is in the overview and introduction, which is under that syllabus tab in D2L.
That's great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Dr. Smith, it looks like there's a couple comments in the question box, and I don't think we got to them, so I'm going to share them. I think one's a comment and one's a question. First one's comment from Dr. Shakar. Yes, an interactive development template with prompts is the way to go when you have multiple developers. And I think I don't think you got the Dr. Swigert, did you? She has a question here. Should the department chair's role as another go-to person for help be clearly explained to the student at the very beginning? For example, in the syllabus. Right now we have it in the welcome letter and sometimes within the course. And another question, perhaps our syllabus should be the document that includes the welcome letter information. And we save the welcome letter for very brief welcomes, question mark.
Yes, the syllabus definitely can be used as kind of a welcome, and just think of anything that you can think of in the beginning that you would need, that students would need to know down the road, kind of prepare them for that, and that should be the first part of the syllabus. Anything that could happen down the road. So that means grading, policies, even you know, a rubric, or to let them see what the grading rubrics look like. And when you get to introduction section, like the Cyber Cafe, that's where you can start talking about the netiquette and what's appropriate and inappropriate, and some examples and non-examples of peer responses. That can all be included in the syllabus. It's not uncommon that it's included in the syllabus, and that's just standard practice. So it can include the welcome letter, definitely. I'm not sure exactly what information is included in the welcome letter as of now, but if it has any of that information, I don't see why that would be an issue, but I haven't seen the welcome letter. Okay, I see another question here from Hisam Kang. He's asking now, does the syllabus include deadlines? I think no. I think students receive deadlines by email. The syllabus should definitely have deadlines because we have non-traditional learners who have jobs and who have families and careers. They should know their deadlines in advance. They can receive it by email, that's awesome, but the syllabus is a contract, as most universities look at the syllabus. Therefore, if we let them know in the beginning important deadlines that are coming up, let them know 2 months from now you're going to have an exam on this date, and they just realize that they have to pull a double shift, or they're not going to have daycare, or whatever the case may be, they can adequately prepare. If we send it by email, we don't really have it in a contractual, consistent way. You know, learners can say, I didn't get the email. It must have went to my junk. I didn't know that it was due on this date. If it's in the syllabus and it's in the course, there's really no excuse for them not having the information there. It's available for them. I wouldn't rely on email as a way to convey deadline information. Okay, I think we got to all the questions, right? Yeah. So any more questions?
Dr. Mahatni just sent a question in. You should see it on your control panel.
Oh, okay.
It's right above Dr. King's response.
All right, so she's asking, what are some tools you would recommend to use that are more engaging? For instance, I know some instructors are using Bitable.com to create intro videos in the science courses. Are there other free resources that you would recommend? Bitable is one that's used quite often because it's free. There's also Screencast-O-Matic is free for a limited version. If you want additional time, it's not a limited version, I'm going to say limited time. So if it's going to be under, I want to say 15 minutes, then it's free, and you know that basic practice, you should never have a video over 7 minutes, right? So you should be able to use Screencast-O-Matic for free to cast any, welcome messages or, any lectures, but just make sure that they're not over 7 or 8 minutes at the longest. So I'm a huge fan of Screencast-O-Matic. Let me see, who else is free? Vimeo has a limited version that's free, but then there's also YouTube. There's that option. YouTube is free, I want to say up to 10 or 15 minutes on YouTube, but just make sure that you don't have videos that exceed that time. So Bitable is also a great option. And, oh yes, also, Dr. Fitzgerald just made a point. There's also the voice and video recording tools in D2L. Yes, you can record your voice and video by using the native LMS as well, and that's free. Good point, thank you. All right, Mary Lind has a question. She put her hand down, so I guess she got her answer. And also, Dr. Fisher pointed out that the D2L trainer recommended providing audio feedback at least once per session as a best practice, and that is a good piece of advice. Audio feedback is extremely useful. It's quick. It doesn't take as long as you may think. As you're giving feedback, instead of typing it, just say it and then press save. It's a pretty useful tool for providing feedback to learners. And also remember that some people grasp information different ways. Some people are auditory, some people are kinesthetic, some people are tactile, and some are visual. So if you want to give feedback in a written form, that's going to meet that, and they'll be able to process it easier for those individuals who learn that way. If you want to provide feedback auditory, then audio feedback is another option so that you don't miss those learners. So all three of those can be included so that all of our learners are receiving feedback in a way that meets their learning needs. All right, any additional questions? Okay. Well, if you have any additional questions, you can always email me, keyonda.smith@trident.edu, and I will also send out the PowerPoint presentation today that you received, that we went through during the call. That way, you guys can have access to some of the pros and some of the standards and exemplary practices. So if you have, oh, Peggy just sent me something. Many of us are very involved in course development right now. Could it be possible for these webinars to come quicker with more breadth for us to benefit in our current projects? Yes, and we're definitely working on a schedule now. I'm going to work with Dr. Mahatni on getting a schedule together, and we'll make sure that we get the schedule out to everyone and the subject content that we're going to be talking about to everyone in good enough time that they're not spaced out too far apart. And I'll make sure that you get all the resources. And this call today, this webinar was recorded. So you're also going to have access to this recording as well. All right, well, thank you guys for attending. You've been an awesome audience, and I'll talk with you all soon.